Hello, and welcome back to Think Torah. We're a project of the Intentional Jew Podcast Network. The following series is a series I'm going to be conducting. It's something I'm super passionate about. I think it's the intersect between technology, innovation, and almost education. And I bring on lots of, really, I call them educators because they may be rabbis, they may not be rabbis, but they are Torah educators and they want to bring a Torah mission out to the world. And they're doing that online and using online media that I find inspiring, that they're able to use technology to further the mission of God. And that's amazing to me. I have a conversation today with Eli Goldsmith, who is a rabbi, but does not like going by the title of Rabbi Goldsmith, so I call him Eli. So this is Eli, a.k.a. Laser G, a.k.a. Midnight Rabbi. For those of you who don't know Rabbi Eli Goldsmith, to name a few roles which he occupies today, he's currently the program director of Breslev Israel, Torah director and PR head of English Emuna. He's the host of 3 podcasts, The Relationship Flow, the Eli Goldsmith Inspired Flow, and the Breslev Israel podcast. He's the MC and the host of the popular Emuna class with Dayan Elgrad and Rav Shalom Arush, the author of the Garden of Emuna series. He's produced the United Souls album, featuring tracks from Joey Newcomb and Shlomo Nathan Katz. He's also the booking manager for Nissim Black, a popular Jewish rapper and thought leader. He's also currently writing a book as well. He manages also the Breslev Israel in English YouTube channel, which has over 8,000 subscribers and posts new videos daily. And he runs the Facebook pages for Breslev Israel. I myself have a personal connection with Rabbi Goldsmith, and I told you about this. I think I've texted you this personally. I want to share this just to give my Hakar Satov to you, that you really started me on this journey of podcasting. There wasn't much out there when I started, and I was looking for Jewish podcasts and using every keyword in the book on Spotify, and I came to one of your Flow podcasts, and it opened me up to Anchor, which is the hosting site which I use to this day. So I have a lot of a Hakar for that, and this is awesome to get started with you. So welcome to the pod, Rabbi Goldsmith.
Thank you, Ahron. And we both owe appreciation to the famous Gary V. Vaynerchuk, a nice friendly Jew over there in the US, who was his post and recommendation of Anchor app, which allowed us to communicate so that our souls that were probably already communicating anyway can now manifest down here and communicate through podcasting and other, social media ways.
Did I just to make sure, did I get all that right? I know it was a big list of
You
things.
did a great job. I just not used to hearing, all the work, thank God, that I've been blessed to do this last year or so. Obviously life is very versatile and we need a lot of flexibility nowadays. So with the Corona challenge, there's been a lot of transition. Usually right now I'd be in somewhere like maybe Miami or New York. I go on a yearly tour with Rav Shalom Arush, and we connect with lots of famous special guests like Charlie Harari and in Miami, Gedalia Fenster and all the other places, in Toronto of Gillison and all the different great locations we go to, Mexico City. And I'm sitting here in my room. I was just in my office, but now I'm in my room so I could have some privacy for this podcast. And the Hashgacha Pratis is that I'm available. The divine flow is that I'm available to talk about this together with you instead of on the road, where I probably wouldn't have the time or the peace of mind to have this discussion. So I just recognize that there's been a switch, that the online platforms are even more important. All the things you mentioned are even more needed. And therefore, our conversation has even more priority in my life, and I appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, we spoke to this a bit off camera, but I want to bring it back up. Is which one of those titles is the hardest for you to hear someone else say for you? That they say you're X.
So the students themselves in Ner Jake back in the day, we're talking about over 10 years ago. They're the ones who called me the Midnight Rabbi because that was what I was doing. I was up all night, every night for many years with Ner Jake, Neve Sion, Netzach. I don't know if any of these yeshivas exist. Maybe Neve Sion, Kesha.
As a personal note, my uncle is Rabbi Liff. Rabbi Shui Liff is my.
I love that. Was my favorite yeshiva. I love that place. That was the best, one of the best few years that I worked at a place. Not just because of the name Midnight Rabbi, but he gave me the full permission to be there late at night and work with the boys, and then I had a class late afternoon when they'd finally wake up again, and we did big shows. We did the Unity concerts back then, when there was more money flowing into the yeshiva world before the whole breakdown of Madoff and everything that went on around that time. So it was a good time period, and I always fondly remember. And all the students that were there then, and the rabbis, including Rabbi Lev, are a big part of my journey. And the Midnight Rabbi lives online now. So
And
that's
I
where
want to
we're at.
skip the background of Eli Goldsmith and who you are and where you came from. If there's anything that's important within the context, please share. But I want to move to your mission, to what you're doing here through all of your different titles and all your different zchusim and things that you're able to project Torah ideas through. It seems like the theme is unity. I see it right behind you. It's United Souls and Unity Inspired. And there's a lot of unity. So I want to unpack that. I was really intrigued by that. Looking into you online, looking to all the things. Where does that inspiration come from, and what's the mission, and what's the goal?
So I want to keep it current because obviously there's, like you said, there's been a history how I got to this. We just had an election in America. I don't like to go to political. I never go political. But the fact is that there's an obvious lack of unity in the world. I noticed this many years ago. I even Googled unity, and the amount of organizations and efforts to create unity is almost nothing. It's limited. I do think there's an actual active intention to prevent unity, because it takes away a lot of the narratives out there without getting too political or too conspiracy minded, that kind of thing. But I'm a big fan of a podcast called Joe Rogan Experience. Yeah, so he's probably the biggest podcaster right now that I listen to. And
the question is, do you make it? The question is, do you make it to the end? I find that you do. So, all right, so good. So these are the people I like to associate with. I make it to the end. Yeah.
Full on everything I do. So even a podcast, even if it goes 3 hours, I'll make sure, and if I don't make it through the 3 hours in one go, I'll get back to it. I'm very thorough, especially with my experience with online. Like I have my people I listen to on Torah Anytime and all these other online platforms for Torah and spirituality. But then at the same time, I feel like I have to keep myself universal, and that goes together with the unity concept. But just to mention a point that's very current, that there was a movement and a celebrity on his podcast who mentioned Unity 2020, and it got taken down. It never really took off. I don't know the facts. If we're going to be like Ben Shapiro, I didn't go and sit and research and find out all the specifics of this point. But trusting Joe Rogan's assessment at this point, that, and based on the lack of once again paraphernalia online, like no one's talked about this Unity 2020. Like I don't see it in anyone's post. It's never come up, at all since I heard about it, and then heard that it was taken down. So the lack of unity, and I think that's always a good key with business. Like Tim Ferriss is also someone who one of the first podcasters I ever started listening to. He mentions over there about finding the things that people are missing, that they're not getting currently, the resources and the services, and also knowing the right questions to ask. That's a big statement from Tim Ferriss. Always like a very Jewish cop kind of mindset, Yiddish cop of freighting a kasha, having the right questions. This is the key to business as well, and to fulfilling a need in the world. And the lack of unity. I mean, I grew up just a little bit of history. My family put on the biggest events in history: Live Aid, Live Earth. They did the Olympics and the big events that beyond, our understanding of how much logistics and complications that went in. I mean, you can look it up online. The documentaries about Live Aid, for example, my uncle Harvey and my father, who was doing all the merchandise and licensing and stuff at that time. it was massive. And I grew up, that was my upbringing in that kind of environment, being in the Royal Box and those kind of events and seeing it all go on. And I saw the power of a few Jews, my father, my uncle, and now my brothers and a bunch of other people, like, who were able to create tremendous events that bridged all gaps, all society, had billions of views through what was then satellite streaming. And when I come to Eretz Israel and I sit in yeshiva and try to do my part to grow in Judaism and spirituality, and then have the merit to teach people and learn with bochurim and students and connect to people online, I realized that, the unity aspect, if I just sit by myself and do my thing, I could definitely impact my sphere of influence, as Stephen Covey says. But I'm not really doing the scale of potential that I can accomplish. And that was something I actually wrote about last night in my United Souls book, which I'm writing currently, and I'm happy you mentioned it. It's the first book that I'm seriously writing. I did have a book out, and you can Google it, Happy Husband Wifey. It's on a publisher called Our Books. No one really looks at it. It was just more of a fun little silly comical tale about my wife and I, and thank God we're married 19 years. The way I've continued that theme of relationship is the Relationship Flow podcasts. I find it much easier to talk about relationships through audio and just talk it out, have a flow. But writing now is the United Souls, as a continuation, is putting into words all the different work I'm doing, and specifically this point about not underestimating our ability, our talents, our strengths to be impactful. And I think that's something that the Jewish people as a whole, especially in the Torah world, and when I say Torah world, I mean people, that have, thank God, been blessed with learning Torah and understand that it's important, and there's Torah mitzvahs, that kind of large world that we exist in, but in the world out there is still not known much about. There's a few documentaries in Netflix which give some very obscure view of what we're doing, but to say the least. But we're not really impacting in the media world and the large one. And you say, well, that's, there's different sheeters about that in our circles. And I had a time period which I'll never forget, where when I was at Ner Jake was literally the beginning of me making a little bit of a transition. But up until Ner Jake, as the Midnight Rabbi, I was not online for 10 years. I didn't even have a computer. One time I had a computer and I asked permission for a Rav to have it, and he told me to do this and that, and I did it, and the computer broke, and he said, Baruch Hashem, move on. And I didn't have a computer. I wasn't online for years. And having that isolation of just pure spirituality was very important for me to, as part of building my family and growing here in the Holy Land in Jerusalem. But then the last 10 years has been the opposite. I got pushed online by the students and the staff of the places I worked at. And then once I was online, slowly finding my way. And like I said, the ability to impact and make a universal message has become a very apparent. I just turned 40, so I'm now at that stage of life where I feel like I've internalized a lot. The idea of 40 is Bina, and we have more of an understanding heart, like it says in Pirkei Avos. So hopefully, I believe with Hashem's help and a lot of blessings from my spiritual guides, my Rebbes and people that I speak to, that I have the ability to now impact. And my wife and I, we're ready to do that as a couple, as individuals. She's still much more internal and wanting to be much more strategic how she goes about it. But I've already been doing this for almost, like I said, 10 years. Excuse me, and been out there really trying to impact. And I think that the ability to impact nowadays is not just important, it's actually an obligation. Like, I'm not obligating every person out there. I don't like telling people what to do, but I feel it myself and you, Ahron, that we are obligated to do this, because once we've understood how to do it with a touch base, we see how easy Anchor is, how accessible it is, And it literally, with focus and using an effective schedule, you can really get a lot of content out there very quickly. It doesn't need to have a whole editing team. Like I just put up a video just now before I started this on my weekly class for Breslev Israel for Rav Shalom Orish's network, and I do a weekly class on a Monday at 2 p.m. live. They have an editing team. Now it takes them a few days to do the editing. But what we've realized with our live studio that we do our Emuna class on the Tuesday night, 11 p.m., and with the technology in our own hands, the phones and stuff, fine, the studio is a different level, but the phones is very good quality. Like when the studio wasn't available because of Corona and other problems and shutdowns, I didn't say, I'm not going to do a class. No, I'm going to do a class. I'm going to sit in my house, obviously better position I'm sitting now visually, but I'm going to sit and I'm going to give over a class. And so that people who are waiting for that weekly boost, then it goes out on all platforms. That's the other thing. Then once you put it on Anchor, it goes out on all the audio platforms. It goes to Spotify and podcast and Google and Apple
Stitcher,
and all the
right.
yeah, all the different platforms. You don't really have to do that much other than give it a title, a description, and a picture, and speak. Do whatever the podcast is. You can have music, you can have all kinds of effects. There's all kinds of stuff you can add as well, and obviously there's higher and higher levels of, if you go to say someone like Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire, and you see the amount of stuff of effort he's putting into his whole production. It's a massive team. He even has a makeup and hair.
So do you.
There's all the level of having
So do
producers and
you,
having a
Ellie.
massive
You don't have makeup? You don't
Huh?
have makeup? You look great on the
No,
set.
I appreciate your sense of humor, and I make this joke once in a while, but I really, thank God, have to pretty much do everything myself when it comes to my podcast and my video.
One man
And my
band.
point,
That's it.
no, but my point in mentioning this is I've never allowed my infrastructure or my lack of infrastructure to hold me back from trying to put content out there. And I think that is the encouragement we all need. Avram Avinu right now is in the Parsha. Do you think he was, worried if he didn't have his servants available that day, or, the food wasn't made? He'd go do it himself. Yeah, that was the whole point in Parshas Vayera, this week's Parsha. The one thing he didn't do is when he sent Eliezer with the water is what caused all the tests later on for his descendants with the water, with the Mei Meriva and all the other things. You can look it up in the Parsha, but the point is that Avram Avinu didn't have excuses. He went and did it. And I'm named after Eliezer, which is one of my names, Eliyahu Eliezer, named after a Dessler originally. But though if you trace the name back, Eliezer is Eliezer Eved Avram, and he was someone who was doing the mission of Avram Avinu in the world, which is, in my opinion, really is the key to this whole redemption. We end off Shemona Esrei's Mogen Avram. We end off, that's the Chesima of Shemona Esrei. The whole idea of Chesed and being mashpia is in our essence. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you with a beard and payers and in a from home kosher shtib, in Yerushalayim or Kodesh, if it wasn't for the chesed that people like the Chabadniks did on university campuses when I was there, or the Eisha Torah in Or Sameach when I came to Yerushalayim, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you nothing, unless, a miracle, complete nace like Eliyahu Novi revealed, which he did at one point, but he kept revealing himself. So I had a place I could just sit and learn with him all day. If I hadn't had those institutes and all that effort from all the organizations of and Tzaddikim of Chabad Rebbe and all the chesed of all the people in Yerushalayim, all the kindness of Avram Avinu's light, I wouldn't be sitting here. So now, being the fact that we have had such a change in events, like you mentioned, Nissim Black, I was putting on events. I was managing Nissim for many years, and and helping him with his booking the last year or two. And the booking, the whole thing went on its head. We can't do really live events. And right now I'm speaking to California. There's a whole group of Chabad organizations there want to host Nissim, and they're worried because they only can do outdoor events, and it's the middle of the winter. So even in California, as nice as the weather is, but it's a big place, California. In some places it rains. So a lot of the options have once again has switched to online. Nissim himself wants to do a podcast. Um, it's that's where it's at. That's where the content needs to be online. And I think slowly it's happening. Like Gedalia Fenster, he puts up his classes on SoundCloud and YouTube. So I said to him, look, I'm happy to share. When I was in Miami with him, I had the pleasure to stay by him, and we hang out a little bit when I come. And he's not really a hanging out kind of guy, but he took me out for frozen yogurt. He won't talk about this publicly, but it was a place which he actually made kosher. That's the kind of impact he has. It was near his gym. He wanted to have a frozen yogurt. He went in there, brought in a rabbi, and made the place kosher. That's the kind of like impact he has on his Saviva. Like he just changes things wherever he is. So I said to him, look, we'll put it on all your content on our network. So in the end, I decided, rather than put all of it, I'll put 1 week. The main class he does a week online is a YouTube class. We'll use that one. And eventually, when I get back to work, hopefully I'll go put that up on our Breslev network. But the difference is that he doesn't have is we put it on a podcast network. And I mentioned to him, it's not like I'm saying it's like my trick and you don't have. Remember, everything for me is collaborative. And one of the reasons why I don't talk about myself so much and is, as I said before we spoke and recorded this, that it's not about me, it's not about I, it's no agenda. It's a spiritual reality that we're souls. That's the idea of the book I'm writing, that we are united souls and we have a mission in this world to fulfill our purpose and to have that joy of life and fulfillment. We have to do what our soul is here to do, which is to be a giver, a no-saying, like Ahron Avinu, and to give out that light to the world through whatever measure that, a method that is. And podcasting is now the biggest industry. Like we mentioned Joe Rogan, he's probably having, and Ben Shapiro and all these guys are having more of an impact on the media world than the old media corporations. So it proves the point that it's $1 billion industry. It's an opportunity for people, and I'm not just pushing podcasts. I mean, I think you have to do it everywhere.
It's all technology.
TikTok,
It's all the media,
Instagram, Facebook. I've tried I'm doing it everywhere. I'm on WhatsApp status like every day, updating. You can take a look now that we've got my phone, WhatsApp phone, every day putting up links and photos, and people hopefully actually click the links, but a lot of people just look at the visual stuff. So therefore, I have to once in a while put it on, make the effort and make a smaller video.
It's endless.
It's easy
it's
now.
Endless the
once
opportunity
again,
of what you can do and who you can reach. It's really
yeah. So for example, that Tuesday night class, we have the ability. We had Nissim Black there. It was obviously a very popular class. So we took a few parts of it and put it up on TikTok. And especially when we had a special guest from Tel Aviv, Ben Blackwell, a lot of people were interested in that. That got thousands of views on TikTok, and on Facebook and YouTube, where the whole class is, it's got thousands of views. And when we had Nissim by himself, it's thousands and thousands of views. We're talking about the Facebook video is around 80,000 views now, and the YouTube video is in the thousands. It's harder for YouTube, I think, to go viral unless you really put money into it and push it. There are techniques how to do that, but once again, I'm not with the best resources. Like the people who edit my video on Breslev, they do a good job editing, but they don't know how to do more than that. So we're still in a learning process. The online live feed, we've just been doing these Emuna classes, and we're on our 15th. And every time we're learning more and more things, how to make it better. And it's a constant learning process, and how to really make the biggest impact. I feel like I'm still just at the beginning, honestly. I'm talking to you right now, like I'm 40 years old. Thank God, had lots of shirim. There's many shirim of mine on SoundCloud, all over the place. There's my podcast. I never made it to Torah Anytime, which is fine, because thank God there's a lot of rabbis there, and I don't need to just be another one. I thank God that the ones who I listen to, I'll just give some names since we're here, who influenced me a lot, and I speak to them directly as well. And that's another important thing. If you have a rabbi, you have someone you connect to, don't be quiet. Like what you've done, Ahron, is exactly what everybody needs to do. If you felt I inspired you, reach out to me and tell me, because I need to know that. Not because of ego, anything, once again, any agenda, but just because of the fact we're all neshamas and we need to communicate to each other and give each other like the mitzvah of Koras Tov, like you said before, showing appreciation, recognizing people that are working hard in a positive way, it just increases their strength. Like I sent an email to Rav Y.Y. Jacobson, who's one of the speakers, Rav Fisher Schechter, Rav Moshe Weinberger. These are the kind of people I listen to online. And I sent them all an email just giving them good news. No, I need this, help me, Nebuch, all this Rahmanas, no, Corona, blah, blah. I didn't say nothing like that. I've had those conversations in the right time with them also. But I just wanted to give them one. I always tell them I appreciate everything they do so much. I get such inspiration, such chizuk. Thank you, keep it up. Keep encouraging us, keep giving us the chizuk we need. But then I also just gave them some good news. And all of them appreciated it. Yeah, I got an email immediately from Fisher Schechter. Y.Y. Jackson took another day. And Moshe Weinberger, it comes eventually. He's maybe got a lot on his head more than anyone. Yeah, but the point is that eventually you get feedback.
Also, it's so important in the age of things move online. The speaker themselves don't get that. Sorry, they don't see the eye contact and the responses from the people, and sometimes they can get that just by speaking, and they understand that. So an email back is the equivalent of like a nod during a speech, which is so important for them to see.
Exactly, an email, or one of the important things in order for our networks to grow, the people who are listening need to go and share our podcast in their network and not be afraid. Say, oh, but this guy, he said over about Avram Avinu. It's not cool amongst my network to talk about Avram Avinu. Yeah, so you make it cool. Yeah. Like you change that, because Avram Avinu is the key to the world. Like, were you going to deny the world knowing about Avram Avinu? They need to know about Avram, because he's Magen Avram. He's what you every day you say Shemona Esrei. If you really believe what you're saying, you got to believe and know 100%, not even with doubt, that Avram Avinu is the most important energy and light, especially when we're reading about him in the Parshas. It's alive. The Torah is alive. Everything's happening right now. Current. They all talk about live feed and trending. What's trending? Trending right now this week is Avram Avinu. That's what's trending. And people need to get into that mindset. They need to spiritualize the internet and stop saying, oh, but look how big all these powerful voices are, like Trump and everyone else is so powerful, their impact. So I'm just some nobody, and I have my few likes a day, and nobody really cares. No, don't listen to that. That's the Yetzer Hara. That's the evil inclination. We have to do our role and keep putting out content, and it will grow. And by all of us, whoever's listening here, keep sharing. That's another 10, another 20, another 30, and it grows. Eventually, the world will wake up to hearing true content. The fact, for example, that now, once again, I'm not aligning myself. There are people out there, Hashem should protect us, who are unfortunately opposing people out there, and that's in the Torah world as well. Like, they can blacklist you. Yeah, we should never know that. I try to stay away from all that. Like, I'm not. When I mention names, it's all about learning the good we can learn from. If there's been people who have blacklisted some of those names, so I don't agree with that approach of blacklisting. I think you can definitely teach people the concepts without blacklisting. I don't think to put anyone into online jail is a right approach, and I think that all of us should have the ability to bring out the good from each other and collaborate, and that's part of my unity focus. Like, I'm willing. I spend a few hours every week speaking to Zoom communities who are majority are not Jewish, and if they are Jewish, then definitely not religious or in a noticeable way, or spiritually they're all very sensitive spiritual people, and that's one of the reasons I love talking to them. But the concepts you have to keep very universal, and that will allow you to communicate to all kinds of people. And we, as people that have had the merit to learn Torah, have an obligation to learn how to communicate to everybody, and not just not everyone can do it. So if people don't do it, it's fine. If they have other things, they're going to be a rabbi who's going to teach all of us how the Torah aspects, and they're not going to, there's different paths in the Jewish world, and it's totally acceptable. I'm not judging anyone. But once you're already out there, you have to translate your words into English. We're speaking, I can speak a bit more Torah words and say a bit more Hebrew and Lashon Kodesh and Yiddish together, and you get the points. But if I'm speaking on a Zoom community, I will not mention any of those words. Funny enough, there was a lady who came on and was talking about Yiddish. So then, I started making some jokes in Yiddish and made everyone laugh a little bit, because ich weiß Yiddish, Baruch Hashem, my Kinder weiß Yiddish. I'm not fluent, but I've had the merit to sit by Tzaddikim and hear in Mamalosh and a lot of shmuzim, and I feel like, once again, if my foundation is in all that spirituality, and that's where my heart is Rahman Boy, is with Hashem, and that's what I'm trying to do, then the content that I allow to flow is hopefully always coming from that sincere journey. And that's my hope in my book as well. I'm not going to go around looking for haskamot from big gedolim and that kind of thing. I want it to be a universal book, and I want my podcast to be universal. I do have a haskama in a way from Rav Orish. He believes in me, and that's why I'm teaching on his website, and he gives me that platform, and I appreciate it very much, from Rav Shalom Orish. So I have his definite support, but I do feel like he's a little bit unique as one of the big Rabbonim in terms of how far he's gone in his ability to impact, in terms of all the books he's written and the accessibility he's made for himself online. And I think that's unique. But once again, I do feel that that's part of my journey, being about tshuva, that he is also about tshuva. And I think that we, understand the importance of bridging
within
both
your flow.
worlds.
First of all, I'm not sure lahavdil, but I like the flow is very similar to what just because you mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast with Kanye, is these ideas flow from thing to thing within his words. So lahavdil, the words that you're saying, Baruch Hashem, are kaddish and are about Avram Avinu and about good things, and I love the flow. And within the flow, there was a bit of a loop there, and I want to unpack that for a moment. That you said originally your relationship maybe with technology and spreading Torah through technology was different than it is now. And I want to unpack that a bit, because I think that it's a personal journey as well. So, how you relate to it, but there's also philosophy there, and there's also Jewish philosophy. And how do you view that as a Torah philosophy, to be using the technology, that the innovations of today to help? And I know you spoke to this a bit, but I want to speak about it more in terms of your journey and more in terms of the philosophy of it.
Yeah, so I was very reluctant to get involved with the online world for many years, being I was close to Rav Simai Zilberberg and Holy Tzaddikim here in Yerushalayim, and the idea of the internet and Torah and anything that was Bittul Torah was something which was very, strong in my focus. I would say influences, my Torah hashkafa would be Rav Tzadok HaKohen, Lublin, and Leibeleger, and Rabbi Nachman, and the Balatanya. I think they would be the four strongest influences, and the Tolner Rebbe, of course, who's my Rebbe now. But I think that I've had this conversation with my Rebbe. Example would be Ami Magazine. So they reached out to me a few times to get interviews from different people. I speak to the chief editor once in a while for recommendations, and Rev Yitzhak Frankfurter. Now he's obviously running an organization which is impacting. If you look right now online with Twitter, and they're making a noise now. It took them a while to get there, but they're there now. I think everyone on some level is transitioning to this reality, this online reality in the film world. I think it's as a universal reality, we're all going through it on some level of trying to grapple. Some are saying it's asa, and some are saying it's mutter or mitzvah. I think there's a lot of different shitas, and everyone has to do what's best for them. I try to stay away from shitas personally. Like you said, I'm more into the flow. Hashem was the one who brought me to him in a very profound way. I can talk about my tshuva journey, and I think if I communicate from that place, it might not be understood by everybody, but the point is that initial inspiration, to deny that to people, that what inspired me, that kindness, and that it would be a mistake. For me, Chabad, for example, is definitely a big voice in everything. I believe, they are leaders in Kyiv, and any organization who tries to take the crown, in my opinion, would be a mistake. I think they're the biggest influential Kyiv organization in the world till now, in so many ways. At the same time, I love talking to like the head of Aish online, Stephen Berg, I think his name is, and in the end, I realized that all these influential people, are all doing important parts of getting the Jewish people to where we need to be in this time in 2020. We are online. Our children are having to learn online. Thank God my kids finally just went back to school. So when they go online, what are they going to see? So thank God my kids now go online, and obviously I'm there to be like, guiding them. They see, thank God, my YouTube videos. They come up, yeah, and they like them themselves on my wife's YouTube channel, and I don't even have to, that's nice. I've even seen them watching them, not that I think that they're made for children. One of the things you have to choose on YouTube
Right.
is they're not making this for children, because then it gets very legal and stuff. But my kids have watched them, and it's nice to know that, for example, my older kids are more tech savvy and they're going on their journey, and knowing that I can send them a clip from me with Rav Orish and whoever was the guest that week, and they think it's cool and they relate to it, and so I'm able to keep up somewhat with the new generation coming up. So it's almost like a organic development that when I had little kids, I could be in this pure bubble of just purity and spirituality and Torah, and just really envelop in that. And once I was pushed by my Rebbeim to go out and teach and make panasa, and that was the emphasis. No longer was it on Torah, but it was panasa. So that becomes now, how am I going to do it in the right way? So I've set up all my technology, my emails, my WhatsApp groups, everything is set up. Like I'd love to give a class one day to guard your eyes, people, because a lot of their approach over there, not all by everyone, but a lot of the approach obviously is with filters and all kinds of different techniques and strategies and group efforts. But I feel like I've built my own little protection in terms of by surrounding myself with positive influences, and I do believe that we have a strong filter here. For example, Joe Rogan, he's not clean at all. I would never tell any from people to get up in a public forum and say, now everyone should go listen to Joe Rogan. I would say, don't listen to Joe Rogan. And I even called him out in my Emuna class, because I know there's a lot of people who come there who are not Jewish or not religious at all. And I mentioned Joe Rogan, and I mentioned his mistakes. Yeah. Example, he spoke about masturbating, completely wrong. Yeah. His approach on that point. And I feel like if we don't become a voice on some level for the millions and billions even of people that are listening to all these people, the world and the new generation and all our friends, they're just not going to get the das, the wisdom that they need to grow and handle this kind of influx of online info. And we're failing to do our job to mahanech our families and the next generation if we're not on there online. Like Rabbi Losky, he's another one I listen to. He's now on podcasts, he's on YouTube. Great. More should follow his ways.
There's a point to be said as well to almost flooding the feeds with Torah content, and even if it's like educational, but even more entertainment, is that it's flowing, and there's a constant flood, so that when we transition as a community and as a society, the From community transitions onto the internet and online learning, it's there. The infrastructure is there, and there's podcasts for Jews. There's lots of them. Popular ones that'll fall up in your feed, and there's YouTube videos of young rabbis and old rabbis, and Rav Asher Weiss now has a YouTube channel which they're diligently posting.
Yeah, Rabbi Biederman, and Biederman's amazing. He's another big influence. I read his parsha sheets like they're like my chumash shir.
If you can't do it yourself, then you build.
And he has all those little clips. I don't have time personally to sit and watch every clip. For me, it's much preferable audio. That's why I love this podcast platform, because I can listen while I'm doing stuff.
Put in AirPods,
understand?
and I'm good to
go. I'm a very active person. And yeah, the audio platform to me is where it's at right now. Like, I really, to watch a YouTube video, I use it almost as an audio platform. It's very hard for me to sit and focus on a class or on a YouTube platform. Why do I teach classes on YouTube? Because there are people who do. And why do I have a website that puts out or video classes? Because I do. But personally, where's my most work gone into? Personally, what I care about is the podcast. I feel like the audio level is really where it's at. I do post on it, and guess what? For all you Jewish listeners and Jewish podcasters, it's free. It doesn't cost you nothing. And with every Jew, I got a coin thrown at me as when I was a 5-year-old kid in school and said, stingy Jew, pick up the coin. Yeah, I had that experience as a kid. But let's use that aspect of ourselves that we understand the importance of money and use it for holiness, that we can use this platform for free. And not only that, if you're good enough, and can eventually even monetize you. Yeah. And you can start getting paid, a monthly online streaming fee or whatever it's called. A
To
streaming,
monetize it, sure. That's
I don't know what the name is, a streaming bill or whatever. Yeah. So, for example, like, Anchor, they'll find you sponsors, and you can put those sponsors on your podcast. I haven't reached that high level monetization. I joke to my wife, oh look, I'm now up to $11. I'm not going to bother.
That's a goal of mine as well, to help podcasters
the point is that
monetize, but also with ethical advertising, where it's not just they're talking about some hand cream or shaver, where you're actually talking about things that unite and that help the Jewish community. So that's a goal of mine with the network as well, and I think it's
we should just look at Ben Shapiro and what he does with Daily Wire. I mean, his advertisements are entertaining. Like, I usually hate advertisements, but they totally flow into what he's saying, and they're amazing.
I like the Tim Ferriss
advertiser.
model, where he actually uses the items, and it's much more authentic. It doesn't feel. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, but that's Ben Shapiro does that also. He all the things he advertised, he's also using as well. I think that's the key with a lot of it. Like, there's another guy, Lewis Howes, who's I call him Jewish Lewis. He's not Jewish at all, but there's something about him that he's just such a good guy. Like, I met him actually, and he came to visit Israel, a volleyball tournament, and I went and met with him. He's just got such great energy, and there's a lot of good energy people out there in the non-Jewish world who their message, you can see they're looking for truth. Now, the thing that pains me is none of us are there, that they never listen to us. They never listen to the Torah world. They never heard. Maybe Ben Shapiro is about as Jewish as they get. And, it's just like, where are we? Or a Chabad guy, or Meir Kay. Meir Kay is starting to come up now, as a voice. But that's it. It's very minimal. And it's, Oprah does like a one-time special about Chabad, and that's it. You never hear about us again.
The Netflix videos,
other than, like I said, those. And that's horrible. I mean, where is our Netflix videos? Where are they? And I wrote to Netflix that, you haven't fully represented our people even a little bit. So, why can't you create a balance to the impact the Jewish world's making by allowing all kinds of different people to come onto your platform and give over the fuller picture. Like, I would love Nissim Black to get on Netflix, even though he doesn't represent everybody, but at least he's a very sincere Oved Hashem. I've worked with him for many years. I've seen that. And these are the kinds of things that I'm praying for. And the United Souls Unity Projects is all about. And I want collaboration. I want these kind of podcasts that you're doing, Ahron. I want this to grow. I want the projects to grow. I'd love to do more events. I have dreams of massive global streaming events online. And, on some level, we just had someone from South Africa phone in to our Emuna class. That's the kind of thing I want. We're going to Toronto in another few weeks. We're going to do a Chazak event with our studio recordings. And, the more and more we want to try get out there the message in a different way, because the values of Emuna that I work with, Rav Orish, is also very universal. So I thank God found an approach and a Rabbonim and a team that I can work with that fits my personal mission as well, of Emuna and unity. And
how do you deal with the fact that, like, taking the Emuna tour online for most of it and projecting most of your things online, there is a part of it that people do just that. They put in the audio, they listen, and the personal connection maybe is not there. How do you build that? And you've said yourself, you send the emails and you make that personal connection, but that may not be available. So does the advantage outweigh hefsedo, the fact that people are not connecting, the advantage of just spreading the ideas? And how do you deal with that? I just think it's interesting. As you go into the tour, you were used to doing that in person. So
we're going to have online meetings. We already had a few Zoom WhatsApp meetings with Rav Arush. It was very intense. Some of the questions that came up, and Rav Arush
like more intimate than
gave over his advice and brachas. An empty studio, just Rav Arush, myself, and the Dayan who's translating with Dayan Elgod. And we obviously, in a very respectful, sensitive way, we talk to the people. And personally, I get hit up by a lot of emails day after day. Now it's coming on all levels, like Instagram, the DM, people DMing me all the time, get me a blessing from Rav Arush. WhatsApp all the time, get me a blessing, here's my name. I have avenues to get to Rav Arush through the Dayan and through myself, and through his sons, and sometimes it works out that I can in the Emuna class get a lot of stuff done before and after, and we're going to make special times for that as well. We're going to set aside a whole day, or 2 days even, Sunday, Monday for Toronto, to have the meetings before and after with the community, and they have to pay for the time because Rav Arush's time is important. Myself, there's no money mentioned about this podcast we're doing together right now. This is often when I do my own projects. Thank God I collaboratively, I'm able to do it for free. I did a few Unity music events. I did them free, and I think it's important here and there, like Gary V says, to give, just keep giving content, whether there's money there or not. But for Rav Arush, we have to charge for the time, and people donate and partner, and thank God, there's a potential to really develop that online.
It's all the things behind the scenes here
tour
that you're saying that's so fascinating. That we only see the video, we don't even see really what's going on because there's a green screen, but we see, we see the final product.
Yeah, there's loads of planning that goes on. Who's going to be on the class? Thank God, being in the music business, I'm connected to loads of musicians. I was about to go out this past summer with a big Unity bookings, Stadlers, and it ended up just being Nissim, because all the musicians, then they're not able to be speakers, most of them. So most of the bookings for Nissim were speaking jobs, online. To give chizuk to communities, and there was a few online concerts. Like this weekend is the Shabbat project, so we put out a concert for the challah bake in Minnesota, and that was a half-an-hour concert that we videoed and sent to them. And thank God we booked that, and they're very, very happy with the video, and hopefully the communities and people that will watch it will be inspired. And I'm happy I'm able to impact in so many different ways, because I'm also an enabler. I'm a promoter. I'm a booking agent.
That's exactly. I
love doing that as well.
Can I speak to that for 1 second? The different roles. How do you balance that? Because it's fascinating. Whereas you have this message of unity, and on one hand, it's Jewish entertainment. It's Nissim Black, which it's a broad stroke to call him a Jewish entertainer. I think that he's, like you mentioned, Eved Hashem, and I love his. I think he's a thought leader. I think he's an important voice for all Jews. But I want to hear from you how you balance the fact that maybe you're in Jewish entertainment, but also in Jewish, quality Torah content, with Rav Arush and the Breslev Israels. So how do you balance those two?
It got difficult when I was on tours with Rav Arush, because
in terms
I was
also of the mission, at the
same time.
Of how does that sit well in your head that you're doing those two?
Oh, they're totally one. That's the beauty of it. For example, Nissim Black, he's a student of Rav Arush, so they're working together. Rav Arush himself is. You asked his. I spoke to his son a lot about it. He's a very influential person there now, David Moshe Arush. Maybe he doesn't want his name mentioned, but it's worth quoting this point. He once said to me that in his opinion, the biggest influencer now of Emuna in the world is Nissim Black. because he's able to get out their message of Rav Arush in a much more universal way. So, Rav Arush's videos will go out to the thousands. Nissim can go out to the millions. And it's not just about numbers, because numbers are important. Gedalia once said to me that's one of the reasons he told me to stay with Rav Arush. Gedalia Fencer, as a friend, he said to me, "You got to stay with Rav Arush because it's all about numbers, and he's hitting the biggest numbers in terms of his books and that. But Nissim Black is hitting the numbers in terms of his music, and that the it's not just the numbers; it's the message underneath is very sincere, and it's all about Emuna. That's really what it comes to, and that relationship with Hashem. Like I said, many flights I was with Nissim, and he was doing Espodidus. He was talking to Hashem while most people watching the latest blockbuster hit on the screen in front of you. So it's I personally had my Daf Yomi open. I'm a very big fan of Daf Yomi. Everyone's got different ways of serving Hashem, but the point is that we all have to work together. That's the collaborative aspect. It's a unity project. And I do still have a long list of musicians. For example, Yosef Danil, who just came into the studio, and he just now did a song for the Shabbat projects. I work with him. He calls me as manager, but I never took on a management agreement. I took on a booking agreement, which is different. Means I don't have responsibility as much, which I prefer. But I am able to enable them to get jobs and help them with their careers, music careers. And it's very important to me to keep helping them. And I want to help him as a speaker as well. I want to help, there's a long list, Mordechai Ben Avram, there's a long list of people. And it's got a bit quiet recently because I think organizations are just grappling with their own struggles and with the current financial challenges. But I'm there, I'm ready. I've got like around 15 people ready, 15 acts and speakers. I'm ready to do the massive events and large tours once the world, is ready for it. And I'm going to do whatever I can to build and be a part of that process of not just entertainment, but, spiritual upliftment. Because people come out of these events changed. Yeah, they take on themselves, the teachings of Rav Arush, that they want to actually start talking to God and not just, superficially. They really want to have a relationship with the Creator, and that's a life-changing experience. It changed my life to connect to Kodesh Baruch Hu and His teachings, and that's once again that ties in with the message of Avraham Avinu. I mean, it's all one thing. That's the United Souls flow that I'm focusing on, and trying to bring out more of a message in the world that there's too much division, and we need to be more focused on unity and how we can work together amongst all the different rabbis and organizations and all the different influencers and all the musicians and all the different content that we're putting out there as a people. We need to realize it's a united experience. It's not my agenda, it's not anyone else's agenda, it's a Kodesh Baruch's agenda. We are the pipeline for this inspiration as the Jewish people. We have a job. We never were fired. We never got time off. We are 24/7, and until Mashiach's coming and beyond, we are employed by Hashem to be messengers to the world of oneness, of unity, of Hashem Echad, and we have to bring that out, without any arguments, and the arguments, if there are, have to be for that mission, not
right.
for the.
What
not
advice
for our
do you
agendas,
have? We'll end off with just two last things, quick. What advice do you have for organizations or people looking to get into this space of spreading Torah, spreading the light, spreading Torah ideas? Any advice for them?
I think everyone has to be open to collaborate. I think like what we just did now, everyone needs to be in contact with each other. Be more like Hashem. Just like Hashem wants us to be no saint, to be a giver. Obviously, I have Mordechai Weinberger in my head. He's LCSW, a friend of mine, another important person. He would tell me you have to have boundaries and balance, and that my wife would agree with that. Obviously everything with shalom bias and everything with, your hinuch, that all has to come first, and do your obligations to your family before helping change the world. Like we say, and Hanukkah's coming up, we'll end off with this, that we know that in Hilchos Hanukkah that shalom bias adif, that having shalom bias, if you have a choice between Shabbos candles or Hanukkah candles, it's more important to have the Shabbos candles, yeah, because Shalom Bayis Adif, Shalom Bayis, having peace in the home, is preferred over the mitzvah of Pasumi Nisa, of spreading the light, sharing the light. Now, one of the beautiful things, this is my own chiddush, is I'm a descendant from Ahron Cohen. I'm a Cohen, and my father, my uncle, the people who did these giant events were our Kohanim. I believe we have a power to take the Olam HaTov, the chaos that's going on in the world, and to bring Shalom. That's our mission as descendants of Ahron Cohen. Ohev Shalom, Rodav Shalom, Karmen Abrias, the Torah. And just to end off on that point, your name's Ahron as well, but Ahron Cohen, it was his Rotzen that wanted the menorah, the whole Adlachas Neiris of Hanukkah. It's from his Rotzen, because he didn't get the Matnas Nasiim. He didn't get that. The Nasiim, with bringing the Nasiim coming to the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan at that time, and there was 12 Nasiim. So the 13th day, we read the Kriya from Ahron Cohen and Parshas Baloscha of lighting up the Neiris after Parshas Naso. So the idea is that we have the power to madlik, to light up the world. And now as Ahron Cohen, everyone should be a Kohen Gadol. Every single person in their home should light up. When a wife lights her Shabbos candles, she's the Kohen Gadol. When a man lights up his Hanukkah candles, he's the Kohen Gadol. When a child lights Hanukkah candles, when he does another mitzvah, or she does another mitzvah, or even these in-between people, nowadays, the people don't know what they are. If they do a mitzvah, they light up the world. It doesn't matter what they are. A person can light up this world with a mitzvah, with a little bit of light, a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of encouragement, of warmth, a little bit of love, whatever level it is. And if we're able, that Nekuda Tova, that little bit of good, that Ahron Cohen wanted so much, a little light, to light up the Beis Hamikdash that would shine out to the world. If we can do that in our own homes, in our own hearts, on a daily level, and how we interact with each other online, how we post content, how we talk to people message us, to give them the time of day, don't ignore them. Like, there's some famous people I message, and it's so relevant for them, and they just ignore me, like as if they're above me, And I mochel them. They're busy, they're this, they're sensitive, whatever their excuses are. And I mochel them and we move on. And I keep messaging them anyway. That's another thing. I'm always going ahead. That's one of the reasons they call me LEP Music. There's a whole story why that is on Facebook, but someone once said in Italy, my uncle in Italy, said the P should be for persistence, because you have to be persistent. You have to push, and he said that about me, and I think that's true. I think that's a trait, but it's persistent with getting out the light. And try every avenue, try different ways, get advice. Obviously listen to the big, successful people out there, but at the same time, listen to your soul. You have so much inside giving you the right advice, and not to listen to the Torah, not to listen to the things trying to hold you back to do your mission, and to make sure, once in a while, you when you really need to speak to the Rabbanim and get the advice on a Torah, Das Torah level. And this is my Das Torah. This is what Hashem wants me to do. It's very obvious. It's not something which is like, and hopefully the people who are, or in all the different situations, who are fighting and this and that, they'll come to the realization that they'll be much more impactful, not by creating controversy, but actually by joining together. And I think that'll be my message to people, that the path of Ahron not only doesn't want to light up in the world, but he does it through peace. He does it through ahava. And I challenge anyone, go look for a political post from me in 10 years of posting online, and I don't think you'll find one, anywhere. And I've posted thousands and thousands all over the internet, and you'll see my internet fingerprint. You go look, there's not one political divisive post anywhere. So thank God, I want to keep that going, and that message of unity should share. I'm not saying politics is divisive; it can be unifying as well. That's why I mentioned Unity 2020. There is ability to unify in politics as well. Doesn't mean you can't be political, but I would never take the political focus on divisiveness. That should never be for any of us. That's not our path.
Shkoach, Rabbi Eli, thank you so much for your time. And I go back to calling you Reb, at least Reb, because the things you've said today are deserving of respect. The ability to be humble and not see yourself in part of this whole plan that you have is quite respectful and amazing. And always, thank you guys for joining me again on another conversation. This conversation was really cool and awesome. It's inspiring to see somebody who's so successful at so many things, but yet can always always attribute his success to Hashem and to God, really not see himself in part of this picture, and that's really cool. Another key takeaway was his ability to learn from not just Jewish podcasters, but he constantly was quoting Joe Rogan. And in the beginning, he said his appreciation to Gary Vee. And I think that's important because there's so many great teachers and leaders out there that we can learn from. And I myself engage in that kind of content as well. And I find it inspiring to see somebody who takes that content, takes that information that he learns online, and is able to channel it towards getting Rav Arush's Torah out, his ideas of unity and Torah in general out to the masses, and that's really an important message. So I appreciated that. I hope you did too. Next week, stay tuned for a great conversation that I have with quite a different personality. His name is Dan Coleman from Houston, Texas. Just a great guy, great conversation, another person who feels a responsibility for the Jewish people. So join me again next week.